Before we begin, a quick and important disclaimer. The information presented in this video regarding social media algorithms, automated accounts, cybersecurity threats, and digital information ecosystems is strictly for educational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute professional cybersecurity, legal, or financial advice. The digital landscape evolves rapidly, and while we examine historical trends and current case studies regarding social media bots, viewers must conduct their own due diligence and consult certified professionals before making decisions regarding their personal digital security, data privacy, or online investments. Always verify information independently when navigating the modern web. Imagine waking up on a Tuesday morning, grabbing your phone off the nightstand, and scrolling through your favorite social media feed while your coffee brews. You see a trending topic. Thousands of people are furiously debating a newly proposed local tax, a sudden drop in a major American company's stock, or a scandalous quote from a public figure. The sheer volume of outrage makes you pause. You read the comments. They are detailed, passionate, and seem to reflect a massive organic consensus of your fellow citizens. You feel your own heart rate spike. You share the post, perhaps adding your own frustrated commentary. In that exact moment, you have successfully completed the final phase of a highly orchestrated algorithmic illusion. You have just been played by a machine. What if I told you that the overwhelming majority of that outrage, the thousands of shares, the perfectly crafted comments, and the trending hashtag itself were generated by lines of code sitting on a server thousands of miles away? The truth about the modern American internet is far darker and more manipulated than most of us are willing to admit. According to cybersecurity research analyzing historical trends in internet traffic, nearly half of all web traffic is non-human. Let that sink in for a moment. Every second time you interact with a piece of content, read a review, or gauge public opinion online, there is a massive statistical probability that you are not observing the genuine sentiment of a human being, but rather the programmed objective of an automated bot. We are no longer simply dealing with the rudimentary, easily identifiable spam accounts of the early 2000s. Those were the digital equivalent of a cheap parlor trick. Accounts with alphanumeric soup for usernames and blank profile pictures offering you suspicious links. Today, we are facing the deployment of highly sophisticated, artificially intelligent networks. These modern social media bots are meticulously designed to mimic human psychology and behavior. They have fabricated, detailed personal histories, carefully curated profile pictures generated by artificial intelligence, and they interact with each other to build artificial credibility over months or even years before they are ever activated for a specific manipulation campaign. Consider the historical case study of the 2013 Associated Press social media breach. A single compromised account broadcasted a completely fabricated claim about a catastrophic event at the White House. Within seconds, automated trading algorithms, which blindly monitor social media sentiment to make split-second financial decisions, reacted to the fake news. The potential outcomes of unchecked automation became terrifyingly real as the Dow Jones Industrial Average plunged in a matter of minutes, temporarily wiping out roughly $136 billion in market value. That was over a decade ago. Utilizing primitive technology compared to the advanced linguistic models currently deployed across every major platform today. Fast forward to our current digital ecosystem. These silent networks are actively weaponized to artificially inflate the popularity of specific financial assets, creating a dangerous illusion of momentum that draws unsuspecting retail investors into highly volatile markets. They are utilized to amplify polarizing domestic issues within the United States, intentionally pushing opposing sides of the American public further to the extremes by dominating the conversation with manufactured outrage. They infiltrate local community groups on community platforms, masquerading as concerned neighbors to subtly shift public opinion on municipal policies, zoning laws, or local elections. This is not a distant theoretical threat confined to the realm of speculative fiction. It is a daily relentless assault on your perception of reality and public consensus. The problem is compounding at an exponential rate because the barrier to entry has never been lower. Just a few years ago, deploying a network of thousands of coordinated bots required specialized programming knowledge, massive server infrastructure, and significant financial resources. Today, the commercialization of digital tools means that almost anyone can access these automated swarms. They can instruct these programs to scrape the internet for specific keywords, generate contextually relevant, highly emotional responses, and flood a target's comment section, all while evading basic platform detection algorithms by mimicking human sleep cycles, geographical locations, and realistic typing speeds. When you look at a product on a major e-commerce platform and see tens of thousands of glowing reviews, how do you verify their authenticity? When you watch a video discussing a crucial national topic and the comments are universally, aggressively one-sided, are you witnessing a genuine cultural shift? Or are you looking at a carefully constructed echo chamber designed to make you feel isolated if you hold a different perspective? The fundamental architecture of trust that the internet was initially built upon is actively crumbling. It is being replaced by a sophisticated mirage engineered specifically to harvest your attention, influence your purchasing decisions, and steer your worldview. This environment leaves the average American user incredibly vulnerable. We are biologically hardwired as a species to rely on social proof. When we see a massive crowd gathering, whether in a physical space or a digital timeline, our instinct is to assume that the crowd possesses information we lack. The architects behind these bot networks understand this psychological vulnerability perfectly. They exploit our evolutionary reliance on tribal consensus, utilizing artificial crowds to bypass our critical thinking and trigger our immediate emotional responses. By the time the average user realizes a trend is entirely synthetic, the narrative has already been firmly established in the public consciousness, the behavioral manipulation has succeeded, and the architects have seamlessly moved on to their next target. You might assume that the multi-billion-dollar technology companies hosting these platforms are fiercely combating this. You might believe they possess the ultimate tools to eradicate these automated imposters. But examining the business models reveals a deeply complex conflict of interest. Platform valuation and advertising revenue are intrinsically tied to engagement metrics and daily active user counts. A significant portion of these metrics can be historically inflated by this very non-human activity. Executing a total eradication of bots could potentially severely reduce their reported user base. Therefore, what we often observe is a performative purge of obvious low-level spam accounts, while the truly sophisticated, high-level networks continue to operate and manipulate deeply embedded within the social fabric of the platform. This brings us to the ultimate purpose of this extensive deep dive. In this series, we are going to tear down the curtain and expose the exact mechanics of this automated illusion. I am going to show you how these networks are built, how they operate in the shadows of your daily digital life, and most importantly, the specific analytical tools you can use to identify them. We will analyze the specific behavioral patterns, the unnatural posting cadences, and the linguistic anomalies that give away even the most advanced automated accounts. We will explore the hidden data points you can check to verify the authenticity of a viral trend before you allow it to influence your emotions or your decisions. By the end of this journey, you will no longer be a passive consumer of information at the mercy of manipulative, unseen algorithms. You will possess the necessary digital literacy and the hardened analytical framework required to navigate the modern internet with absolute clarity. We will solve the critical problem of digital deception for you today, transforming you from a potential target of automated manipulation into a vigilant, highly aware participant in the digital age. The battle for your attention and your perception is happening right now, right on the screen in front of you, and it is time to learn exactly how to secure your digital reality. To understand how to defend yourself, you must first understand the anatomy of the modern social media bot in the year 2026. We are no longer dealing with basic automated scripts that copy and paste the same repetitive, poorly translated messages across random forums. Today, we are looking at highly sophisticated, dynamic networks coordinated by what cybersecurity experts call bot herders. These operators manage vast digital armies using centralized command and control infrastructures. Through a single streamlined dashboard, one operator can direct thousands of artificial personas simultaneously. These personas are not just empty digital shells. They are fully integrated nodes powered by advanced large language models. This integration allows them to read a post, analyze the nuance and context of the conversation, and generate a unique, highly relevant response in milliseconds. They can argue logically, they can express synthetic sympathy, and they can flawlessly mimic localized regional dialects to blend in perfectly with the human population. Imagine if David, a 34-year-old small business owner living in Columbus, Ohio, logs onto his preferred community networking platform after a grueling 12-hour shift. He sees a deeply alarming, highly popular post claiming that a major, controversial infrastructure project is secretly being approved for construction just 3 miles from his retail store. The post is accompanied by official-looking zoning documents and environmental impact reports. Upon closer inspection by a certified forensic expert, These documents would easily be revealed as completely artificial, generated by image synthesis programs. But David is exhausted, his livelihood is potentially at stake, and he is scrolling quickly. Below the initial post, there are already over 800 comments. Some claim to be local real estate agents warning about commercial property values plummeting. Others claim to be municipal workers whistleblowing on the corrupt approval process. What David does not know, and what the platform itself struggles to identify, is that he is witnessing a localized algorithmic precision strike. This entirely fabricated crisis was initiated by a seed account, a specialized bot designed exclusively to drop the initial incendiary content. The moment that post went live, the command system automatically activated hundreds of amplifier accounts. These specific accounts do not write comments. Their sole programmed purpose is to instantly like, share, and bookmark the post within the first critical minutes of it going live. This massive, sudden influx of unnatural engagement tricks the community platform's organic algorithm. The platform's code interprets this rapid velocity of interactions as an incredibly important, urgent local event. The algorithm, functioning exactly as it was designed to maximize user retention, then automatically pushes this fabricated post to the very top of the feed for every single active user within a 20-mile radius. Once the algorithm has been successfully hijacked and the post is highly visible to real people like David, the persona bots are deployed into the battlefield of the comment section. These are the artificial accounts leaving those detailed, terrifying, and highly convincing comments. They rely on historical trends and public outrage to craft their targeted messages. They know intrinsically that appealing to the financial security of a small business or the safety of a residential neighborhood will trigger the strongest, most visceral emotional responses from the United States public. They employ an aggressive psychological tactic known as narrative fortification. If a genuine, skeptical local resident comments on the post pointing out that the attached documents look digitally altered, 5 different persona bots will immediately swarm that real user. They will attack the human user's credibility, accuse them of being a paid corporate shill, and effectively bury their logical observation under a manufactured mountain of artificial hostility. You might reasonably wonder how these automated accounts evade detection by the multi-billion-dollar security systems engineered by these massive tech conglomerates. The secret lies in the widespread weaponization of a technology called residential proxies. In the earlier days of the internet, platform security could easily identify and ban botnets because thousands of accounts were operating and routing their traffic from a single, centralized commercial data center server. It was an obvious, glaring red flag. Today, sophisticated bot networks route their internet traffic through the hijacked residential internet connections of everyday citizens. Malicious software unknowingly downloaded on a laptop in Texas, a compromised smart television in Florida, or a vulnerable, outdated home Wi-Fi router in California can be silently turned into an exit node for these networks. When the bot leaves a hostile comment on David's local group, the platform's security architecture sees the digital footprint, the IP address, and the internet service provider of a regular, verifiable home computer located in a neighboring Ohio town. To the security algorithm, it looks entirely, completely legitimate. The ultimate purpose behind this elaborate, resource-intensive deception is rarely just to cause chaos for the sake of causing chaos. There is almost always a massive, highly optimized financial engine driving these operations in the background. In our case study with David, the artificial outrage regarding the fake infrastructure project includes external links strategically placed and heavily upvoted by the bots in the comment section. These links direct panicked residents to an independent, supposedly local news blog to sign an urgent petition to stop the construction. This entire blog ecosystem is owned and operated by the exact same entity controlling the botnet. Every single time David and his terrified neighbors click that link to read the article or sign the fake petition, they are served highly targeted programmatic advertisements. The bot network artificially generates the local traffic, the genuinely terrified humans provide the valuable clicks, and the unseen operator harvests the resulting advertising revenue. This specific case study represents a digital business model that scales almost infinitely. By utilizing automated systems to generate hyper-localized outrage across thousands of different American towns and cities simultaneously, the potential outcomes for illicit ad revenue generation are absolutely staggering. Let us break down the exact step-by-step execution of how these campaigns operate at scale, analyzing historical trends from cybersecurity threat reports. Step 1 is automated target acquisition. The machine learning systems constantly scrape the internet, scanning for trending regional keywords, local vulnerabilities, or divisive political topics that already possess a baseline of organic momentum. Step 2 is rapid asset generation. The language models instantaneously draft the seed posts, generate hundreds of unique variations of supporting comments, and synthesize the fake photographic evidence required to sell the lie. Step 3 is the algorithmic push, utilizing the silent amplifier bots to trick the platform and force the fabricated content directly into the feeds of real, unsuspecting users. Step 4 is the engagement harvesting and narrative control, where the persona bots actively interact with real users, validating their fears and attacking dissenters to keep the post trending for as long as mathematically possible. Finally, Step 5 is the extraction and monetization phase, pulling financial value through advertising arbitrage, affiliate link stuffing, or even attempting to manipulate local municipal bond markets based on the entirely fabricated public sentiment. David eventually closes his laptop that evening feeling deeply stressed, politically isolated, and fearful for the future of his community, entirely unaware that his emotional state was mathematically engineered by a server farm halfway across the world. This profound level of digital manipulation completely bypasses our standard logical defenses because it preys directly on our fundamental, evolutionary human need to belong to a consensus and protect our immediate environment. But the truly terrifying part of this equation is not just how these automated networks operate mechanically on the platforms. The most dangerous aspect of the 2026 digital landscape is how these machines determine exactly which emotional buttons to push in the first place. They are not simply guessing what will make David angry or afraid. They know exactly what will trigger his specific anxieties based on a massive, invisible psychological profile built from years of his own digital footprint. But how exactly are these shadowy networks accessing your deepest psychological vulnerabilities, and how are they actively weaponizing your own past online behavior against you right now? To answer that question, we must pull back the curtain on the multi-billion-dollar shadow industry of data brokering and the precise mechanics of psychographic profiling. You might assume your digital footprint consists entirely of the photographs you voluntarily upload, the status updates you write, or the videos you explicitly choose to share with your friends. This is a dangerous misconception. The modern data economy does not care about your selfies. It cares about your invisible behavioral exhaust. Every single time you hover your thumb over an article about economic instability for 3 seconds longer than an article about sports, every time you use a seemingly harmless free weather application that silently tracks your geolocation data, and every time your smart television registers the exact timestamp you switch channels during a specific commercial, a data point is generated. These trillions of microscopic data points are continuously harvested, packaged, and sold on vast, unregulated digital exchanges to the highest bidder. By the year 2026, the integration of advanced machine learning algorithms with these massive datasets has fundamentally changed the nature of digital manipulation. The operators controlling these social media bot networks do not need to guess what you are afraid of. They buy the exact coordinates of your vulnerabilities directly from data brokers. Imagine if Mark, a 42-year-old accountant living in Denver, Colorado, spends his Sunday mornings reading digital articles about rising inflation, local property tax hikes, and the volatility of the housing market. He does not post public comments about his financial anxiety. He simply reads quietly in his living room. He also utilizes a free fitness tracking application on his smartwatch to log his evening runs, and he occasionally researches home security systems on major search engines. To a human observer, Mark is just a responsible citizen trying to stay healthy and protect his family. To the algorithmic profiling engines utilized by sophisticated bot herders, Mark is a highly structured, exceptionally valuable dataset representing a precise psychological demographic. The bot herders feed this aggregated data into immense psychographic categorization models. These models analyze Mark's digital exhaust and conclude with near mathematical certainty that he possesses a high baseline of financial anxiety, a protective instinct over his physical property, and a growing distrust of local municipal governance based on his reading habits. This profile is completely stripped of Mark's actual name to maintain a thin veneer of corporate privacy compliance, but the behavioral fingerprint is so precise that his identity is irrelevant. The network knows exactly how he thinks. Once Mark is categorized, the automated attack vector begins. The operators deploy their large language model-powered bots, instructing them to ingest Mark's specific psychographic profile. In the past, this type of targeting was exclusively the domain of static banner advertisements. Today, it is weaponized into dynamic, conversational manipulation. When Mark logs into his preferred financial discussion forum or community networking site, the network automatically recognizes his unique device identifier or browser fingerprint. Instantly, the bots are activated and directed into his specific digital field of view. Step 1 of this targeted manipulation is context generation. The bot network does not spam Mark with generic financial scams. Instead, a persona bot, completely fabricated but possessing a robust, multi-year posting history designed to look like a fellow Denver resident, publishes a highly detailed post about a rumored, catastrophic municipal bankruptcy that will supposedly wipe out local property values. The language model drafts this post utilizing the exact regional vernacular of a Colorado local, mentioning specific street names and local landmarks to build immediate artificial credibility. Step 2 is narrative reinforcement. The moment the seed post goes live, a swarm of secondary amplifier bots perfectly engineered to match the demographics of Mark's peer group flood the comment section. They share fake anecdotes about selling their homes in a panic, they post doctored screenshots of supposed insider municipal emails, and they aggressively attack anyone who questions the validity of the rumor. Step 3 is direct engagement and behavioral extraction. Mark, already predisposed to financial anxiety, sees this highly localized, terrifying scenario unfolding seemingly organically before his eyes. The engineered consensus bypasses his critical thinking. He leaves a comment expressing his concern. The very millisecond he interacts, the generative bots seamlessly pivot to target him directly. A bot replies to Mark with synthetic empathy, validating his exact fears about inflation and property taxes, mirroring the vocabulary he used in his own comment. The bot then introduces the solution, which is actually the payload of the entire operation. It casually links to an external, supposedly safe offshore cryptocurrency exchange or a highly volatile penny stock, framing it as the only logical way to protect his family's wealth from the impending, fabricated local collapse. If Mark expresses hesitation or requests more information, the bot does not simply repeat the link like older, primitive spam programs. Because it is powered by an advanced language model, it dynamically adapts to his skepticism. It generates a customized, logical-sounding argument explaining why traditional financial advisors are hiding this information. It cites fake historical trends and non-existent case studies to isolate Mark from reality and pull him deeper into the engineered narrative. The potential outcomes of this hyper-personalized manipulation are financially and psychologically devastating. The bot is infinitely patient, it does not sleep, and it is processing thousands of behavioral variables per second to find the exact combination of words required to break down Mark's resistance. This represents the complete weaponization of your own history against you. The infrastructure of the internet has been inverted. It is no longer a tool you use to search for information. It is a sprawling sensory network utilized by automated systems to search for your vulnerabilities. Examining historical trends from the early 2020s, we saw rudimentary versions of this targeting utilized during major political cycles. But the plummeting costs of artificial intelligence computing power have democratized this military-grade psychological manipulation. It is now deployed constantly for everyday consumer fraud, subtle ideological shifts, and micro-targeted financial scams. It creates a fractured, isolated digital reality where Mark's internet looks fundamentally different and significantly more terrifying than the internet experienced by his immediate neighbors. The algorithms ensure he only sees the artificial crowds designed to manipulate him. Yet, as sophisticated as these hyper-targeted text-based conversational bots have become, they still rely on your willingness to read and interpret written words on a screen. They still require you to imagine the person on the other end of the keyboard. But what happens when the artificial intelligence no longer needs to rely on text? What happens when these exact same malicious networks utilize your stolen data to perfectly synthesize the actual voice of your panicked family member, or generate a flawless, high-definition video of a trusted public official delivering a terrifying emergency broadcast that never actually occurred? This represents the most critical and dangerous evolution in the modern digital landscape. We have crossed the threshold from text-based manipulation into the era of fully synthetic media. In the year 2026, the bot networks we are analyzing are no longer confined to generating fake comments or manipulating written reviews. They have integrated highly advanced generative artificial intelligence to weaponize audio and video, creating a reality where your own eyes and ears can no longer be trusted as objective instruments of truth. This technology relies on sophisticated machine learning frameworks, known as generative adversarial networks. These systems operate by pitting two neural networks against each other. One network attempts to create a completely artificial image, video, or audio clip, while the second network acts as a strict detective, analyzing the creation to detect any mathematical flaws or signs of forgery. They iterate this process millions of times per second until the artificial output is mathematically indistinguishable from authentic human media. To understand the personal severity of this threat, imagine a scenario involving Sarah, a 58-year-old high school teacher living in Phoenix, Arizona. It is a typical Thursday afternoon, and Sarah receives a phone call from an unknown number. When she answers, she immediately hears the panicked, trembling voice of her 24-year-old son. The voice is entirely flawless. It has his exact cadence, his specific regional accent, the precise pitch of his vocal cords, and even the subtle breathing patterns she has recognized since he was a child. The voice frantically explains that he has been involved in a severe car accident while traveling out of state. His phone was destroyed in the crash, and he desperately needs her to immediately wire thousands of dollars to an emergency legal proxy to avoid being detained by local authorities. The sheer terror in her son's voice completely hijacks Sarah's central nervous system, flooding her brain with adrenaline and entirely bypassing her critical reasoning skills. What Sarah does not realize is that her son is perfectly safe, sitting at his desk hundreds of miles away. The voice on the phone is a completely synthetic clone, mathematically generated by a malicious bot network. How did the bot herders acquire this capability? It requires a chillingly simple automated process. Months prior, Sarah's son uploaded a completely public, 30-second video to a popular short-form video platform discussing his favorite local coffee shop. The bot network, endlessly scraping the internet for raw data, downloaded that video. The system stripped the audio file and fed it into a vocal cloning algorithm. In the year 2026, these advanced algorithms require less than 3 seconds of clear audio to perfectly map the biometric signature of a human voice. The bot herders then purchase Sarah's contact information, including her cellular phone number and her familial connections, from the vast, unregulated data broker markets we discussed previously. They did not specifically target Sarah because of who she is. They targeted her because she fit a highly profitable statistical model. The bot network executed this exact same synthetic voice attack on 10,000 other American mothers simultaneously. The system uses natural language processing to listen to Sarah's responses in real time, feeding her words back into the language model to instantly generate and synthesize the fake son's ongoing replies. If Sarah asks a specific question about his location, the automated system dynamically generates a terrifying, plausible excuse in her son's exact voice without a single millisecond of unnatural hesitation. The potential outcomes of these automated, hyper-personalized extortion campaigns are financially devastating, draining life savings in a matter of minutes based entirely on an algorithmic illusion. While audio synthesis targets the individual, video synthesis is currently being weaponized by these networks to target entire populations and destabilize massive financial systems. We must examine the mechanics of high-level video deepfakes and how bot networks act as their primary distribution engine. Creating a convincing video manipulation previously required Hollywood-level visual effects studios and weeks of rendering time. Today, malicious actors utilize open-source deep learning models to flawlessly swap faces, manipulate lip movements, and synthesize body language in near real time. Consider a terrifying case study regarding the fragility of modern financial markets. Imagine if a highly sophisticated, state-sponsored bot network targets a major American technology company. The operators train their video synthesis models on hundreds of hours of publicly available interviews and keynote speeches delivered by the company's chief executive officer. They meticulously map his facial micro-expressions, the specific way he blinks when emphasizing a point, and the unique asymmetry of his smile. They then generate a flawless, high-definition video of this CEO sitting in his recognizable office, somberly announcing that the company has discovered a catastrophic flaw in their flagship product, resulting in an immediate, total recall and a subsequent filing for corporate bankruptcy. A fake video sitting on a hard drive is harmless. The true danger is the automated distribution mechanism. The bot herders wait for the exact moment the New York Stock Exchange opens on a Tuesday morning. At precisely 9:31, they deploy their artificial army. 10,000 automated accounts simultaneously upload the fabricated video across every major social media platform, video sharing site, and financial discussion forum. Instantaneously, 100,000 amplifier bots are triggered. They furiously like, share, and comment on the video, artificially forcing the platform's algorithms to categorize the fabricated announcement as the most urgent, trending news event in the world. Within 90 seconds, the video reaches the feeds of real, human financial analysts and retail investors. But more importantly, the fabricated trend is detected by the automated, high-frequency trading algorithms utilized by major Wall Street hedge funds. These institutional trading computers are programmed to scan social media sentiment and execute massive trades in fractions of a second. The computers interpret the massive, sudden spike in negative sentiment and the hyper-realistic video as absolute truth. Before a single human being at the actual technology company can issue a press release denying the video, the automated trading algorithms aggressively dump millions of shares. This triggers a cascading effect. Retail investors see the stock price plummeting violently and panic sell their own positions to mitigate their losses. In less than 5 minutes, tens of billions of dollars in market capitalization are completely vaporized. The bot herders who strategically purchase massive short positions against the company just moments before deploying the video extract millions of dollars in illicit profits from the ensuing chaos. By the time the major news networks verify that the video is a mathematical forgery, the financial damage is already irreversible, and the bot accounts that distributed the payload have seamlessly deleted themselves, vanishing back into the digital ether. This relentless assault on objective reality produces a devastating psychological side effect, known by cybersecurity researchers as the liar's dividend. As the American public becomes increasingly aware that these flawless automated deepfakes exist, a dangerous societal shift occurs. If any video, any audio recording, and any consensus can be mathematically fabricated by a machine, then the baseline of absolute truth begins to erode. Bad actors and corrupt individuals can simply dismiss genuine, factual evidence of their own wrongdoing by claiming it is just another deepfake generated by a bot network. The automated networks do not just create fake realities, they destroy our collective ability to trust real evidence. We are left wandering through a digital hall of mirrors, entirely unsure if the events we are witnessing are historical facts or algorithmic illusions. But operating these massive, highly sophisticated neural networks and coordinating millions of automated accounts requires an astronomical amount of raw computing power and vast financial resources. Where are these shadowy organizations securing the immense infrastructure required to run these operations, and how are they silently hijacking the devices sitting in your own living room right now to fuel their attacks? The answer lies in a sophisticated, highly decentralized digital architecture that cybersecurity professionals refer to as a botnet, specifically leveraging the deeply vulnerable Internet of Things ecosystem. You might visualize the infrastructure powering these massive social media manipulation campaigns as a monolithic, centralized server farm, similar to a massive data center owned by a legitimate technology corporation. This is a fundamental misconception. If a malicious organization attempted to route millions of artificial social media interactions through a single, centralized location, the security algorithms of major platforms would instantly detect the massive spike in traffic originating from one specific IP address block. The platforms would simply ban that entire block of addresses, completely neutralizing the attack in a matter of milliseconds. To bypass these automated security countermeasures, the operators of these networks require an incredibly vast, geographically diverse web of internet connections that appear perfectly legitimate. They need residential IP addresses, the exact same type of internet connection you are using right now. To acquire this essential camouflage, these shadowy organizations do not purchase internet subscriptions. They steal them. They achieve this by silently hijacking the exponentially growing number of smart devices populating the modern American household. By the year 2026, the average American home is entirely saturated with internet-connected devices. We are no longer just connecting our laptop computers and smartphones to our home wireless routers. We are connecting our smart televisions, our voice-activated digital assistants, our robotic vacuum cleaners, our programmable thermostats, our wireless security cameras, and even our kitchen appliances. These devices are designed for maximum consumer convenience, engineered to automatically connect to the internet the moment you plug them into the wall. However, this absolute prioritization of convenience has resulted in a catastrophic historical trend of systemic security negligence. Imagine if Michael, a 41-year-old logistics manager living in Atlanta, Georgia, decides to upgrade his home security in 2026. He purchases a highly rated, affordable wireless security camera system from a massive online retailer and installs it above his garage. He connects the cameras to his home wireless network, downloads the corresponding smartphone application, and successfully views the live video feed. Michael assumes he has just fortified his physical property. What Michael does not realize is that the manufacturing company that built his affordable cameras utilized outdated, highly vulnerable firmware to reduce production costs. More importantly, the cameras shipped with a universal factory default administrator password that is publicly documented on the internet. Michael, lacking formal cybersecurity training, never realizes he needs to change this deeply embedded administrative password. Within 48 hours of Michael connecting that camera to his network, his device is discovered by an automated, malicious software program known as a scanner. These scanning programs are relentlessly deployed by botnet operators to constantly crawl the entire global internet, automatically pinging millions of IP addresses every single second, specifically searching for vulnerable connected devices. The scanner pings Michael's internet connection, identifies the specific model of the wireless camera operating on his network, and instantly attempts to log in using a library of known default passwords. Because Michael never changed the factory settings, the scanner successfully breaches the camera's internal operating system in less than a second. Once inside, the scanner executes its primary payload. It secretly downloads a sophisticated piece of malicious software directly into the memory of Michael's security camera. This malware permanently enslaves the device, forcibly tethering it to a massive, hidden command and control server operated by the bot herders. Michael's camera continues to function perfectly normally. It still records video, and the smartphone application still works flawlessly. There are no flashing red lights, no warning messages, and no visible indicators of compromise. But completely undetected in the background, a fraction of the camera's processing power and the entirety of Michael's home internet connection have been entirely hijacked. His security camera is now an active, weaponized node in a global zombie network consisting of millions of other hijacked household appliances. This hijacked residential connection is the absolute holy grail for social media manipulation. When the bot network operators decide to launch a massive artificial intelligence-generated propaganda campaign, or deploy the synthetic deepfake videos we previously analyzed, they do not push the data directly from their own hidden servers to the social media platforms. Instead, the command server encrypts the malicious data and silently routes it directly through Michael's compromised security camera. When the artificial intelligence generates a highly polarizing, fake political comment, that exact comment is transmitted through Michael's home internet router. When the social media platform's security algorithms analyze the origin of this potentially malicious comment, they do not see the digital footprint of a notorious cybercriminal syndicate operating in a hostile foreign nation. They see the legitimate, registered IP address belonging to Michael, a verified resident of Atlanta, Georgia, utilizing a standard American internet service provider. The security algorithm classifies the traffic as entirely authentic, effectively whitelisting the bot and allowing the engineered manipulation to seamlessly infiltrate the platform. The malicious actors have successfully laundered their digital footprint through Michael's living room, implicating his internet connection in their global disinformation campaigns without his knowledge or consent. This methodology scales to a level that is difficult to fully comprehend. Cybersecurity threat reports from recent historical trends indicate that a single sophisticated botnet can control upwards of 5 million individual hijacked devices simultaneously. This creates a terrifying economic ecosystem known as botnet as a service. The elite programmers who discover these vulnerabilities and initially infect the devices often do not run the social media campaigns themselves. They operate on encrypted dark web marketplaces, leasing temporary access to their massive zombie networks to the highest bidder. A malicious organization wishing to artificially inflate the stock price of a failing company or manipulate the public perception of a local election can simply rent access to a network of 100,000 hijacked American smart televisions for a few $100s an hour. This rental provides them with an instant, geographically distributed army of seemingly legitimate IP addresses, granting them the immense computational bandwidth required to overwhelm platform defenses and flood the internet with artificial narratives. The devices sitting on your kitchen counter, your bedside table, and your living room wall are the literal engines powering the destruction of digital truth. The architects of these networks have successfully outsourced their infrastructure costs and their legal liability directly to the American consumer. We have now established the terrifying scale of these operations. We understand the advanced psychological profiling they utilize to target your vulnerabilities, the mathematical sophistication of the synthetic media they generate to deceive your senses, and the sprawling hijacked infrastructure they exploit to bypass security and deliver their payloads. The modern social media bot in 2026 is an absolute apex predator of the digital ecosystem, armed with limitless resources and operating with near-perfect camouflage. This reality might seem entirely hopeless. If the multi-billion-dollar tech platforms cannot automatically filter this traffic because it perfectly mimics human behavior and originates from legitimate household internet connections, how can an ordinary citizen possibly hope to survive in this environment? The situation is dire, but it is not unwinnable. Despite their advanced programming and vast computing power, these automated networks possess fundamental, inherent flaws. Because they are ultimately machines mimicking humanity at scale, they leave behind microscopic behavioral and linguistic anomalies. They create subtle, unnatural patterns that a trained human eye can mathematically identify. What are the specific step-by-step analytical techniques you can implement right now to tear off their digital masks and definitively prove that the content you are interacting with is an artificial illusion? The first and most reliable analytical framework you must deploy is temporal forensics. We are biologically bound by the circadian rhythm. Human beings, regardless of their demographic or geographical location, must eventually sleep, eat, and disconnect from their screens. Machines are bound by no such biological constraints. While sophisticated bot herders attempt to program artificial sleep cycles into their networks, the sheer mathematical scale of their operations inevitably creates glaring temporal anomalies. Imagine if Jessica, a 28-year-old registered nurse working in Chicago, Illinois in the year 2026, is scrolling through a highly contested debate on a major public forum regarding a controversial new healthcare policy. She notices a particularly aggressive account posting highly detailed, deeply polarized arguments. The profile picture looks like an average citizen, and the biography claims they are a concerned local parent. But Jessica decides to look closer. She does not engage with the argument. Instead, she opens the account's public posting history and analyzes the timestamps of their activity over the past 72 hours. A genuine human user might post heavily during a lunch break or in the evening, with a solid block of 6 to 8 hours of complete silence during the night. When Jessica reviews this specific account, she discovers a mathematically impossible velocity of engagement. The account has been publishing 3-paragraph, statistically dense arguments every 14 minutes, continuously for the last 48 hours without a single interruption. There is no pause for sleep, no break for a meal, and no deviation in the posting cadence. This is a classic machine gun deployment strategy, used by bot herders to artificially dominate a specific digital conversation. By flooding the zone with continuous high-volume content, they ensure that real human voices are mathematically drowned out. Identifying this impossible temporal velocity is your first definitive proof of an automated illusion. The second analytical technique requires you to become an amateur linguistic forensic investigator. While the large language models powering these bots in 2026 are exceptionally advanced, they possess inherent mathematical limitations when generating text at scale. They operate on probability, calculating the most likely next word in a sequence based on their massive training datasets. This probabilistic generation often results in a phenomenon known as hyperformalism, or the uncanny valley of text. When real human beings argue online, especially about highly emotional or controversial topics, they utilize flawed syntax, they misspell words, they use hyperlocal slang, and their emotional tone fluctuates wildly within a single paragraph. A large language model, however, is designed to be structurally perfect. If you analyze a thread of suspected artificial comments, look for an unnatural level of grammatical precision combined with repetitive structural framing. You will often notice that 5 supposedly different accounts, all arguing the exact same point, will structure their paragraphs identically. They might all begin with a rhetorical question, follow with a fabricated statistic, and end with an aggressive call to action. They lack the chaotic, unpredictable variance of genuine human communication. Furthermore, these language models frequently suffer from context hallucination. Because they do not actually understand the emotional weight of the words they are generating, they will occasionally misinterpret a deeply nuanced cultural reference or a hyper-local colloquialism. If you intentionally introduce an obscure, localized joke or a highly specific regional reference into the conversation, a human user from that area will instantly recognize it and adapt their response. The automated bot, lacking true cultural context, will either ignore the reference entirely or generate a highly literal, deeply confusing response that immediately exposes its artificial nature. You can actively test the suspected accounts by breaking their programmed conversational loops with unexpected, highly nuanced human context. The third step in your analytical framework involves network topology, or examining the digital company the suspected account keeps. A genuine human user on a social media platform curates a chaotic, deeply personal network of connections. They follow their high school friends, their favorite musicians, local news outlets, and perhaps a few niche hobby groups. Their follower list is a disorganized reflection of a real multifaceted human life. An automated persona, however, is a single node within a massive, highly structured operational cluster. If Jessica suspects the aggressive account in the healthcare debate is artificial, she can simply audit its public follower network. In 2026, bot herders attempt to build artificial credibility by forcing their bots to follow each other, creating massive, isolated echo chambers. When Jessica looks at the suspected account's connections, she will not see a diverse mix of real people and local businesses. Instead, she will find that the account is exclusively followed by hundreds of other accounts that were all created in the exact same month, all feature similar artificial profile pictures, and all post about the exact same narrow set of political or financial topics. They never interact with organic content outside of their programmed operational parameters. This incestuous, highly coordinated network structure is the digital fingerprint of a centralized command system. Let us analyze a historical trend to understand the potential outcomes of applying these techniques. In previous years, massive financial manipulation campaigns were executed on public forums to artificially inflate the price of obscure digital assets. By applying temporal forensics, independent researchers discovered that thousands of supposedly enthusiastic investors were posting promotional messages at the exact same millisecond, a physical impossibility for human coordination. By applying linguistic forensics, they found that these accounts were copy and pasting the exact same syntactical structures, merely swapping out the names of different financial assets. And by analyzing the network topology, they proved that this entire massive community of supposedly independent retail investors was actually a single highly coordinated network controlled by a handful of operators. By utilizing these three analytical pillars, temporal posting velocity, linguistic syntax anomalies, and network topology structures, you strip the bot of its primary weapon, which is the illusion of consensus. You transition your mindset from a passive consumer of information into an active, critical auditor of your digital environment. You realize that the overwhelming crowd shouting at you through your screen is not a reflection of the United States public, but rather a meticulously programmed stage play designed to manipulate your perception and your wallet. However, recognizing the automated accounts in your feed is only the first layer of digital defense. The architects behind these manipulative networks are fully aware that users are becoming more sophisticated. They know that individuals like Jessica are learning to identify the unnatural posting cadences and the isolated follower networks. Therefore, they have engineered a far more insidious strategy. They are no longer simply trying to trick you into believing their artificial narratives. They are actively weaponizing the fundamental architecture of the platforms themselves to ensure you never even see the truth in the first place. How do these invisible networks manipulate the massive search and discovery algorithms that control the flow of information across the entire internet? And what happens when the very search engines you rely on for objective facts are silently hijacked by automated armies? This hijacking of the discovery layer represents the highest level of automated strategic warfare in 2026. To understand this, we have to look at the transition from social media bots to search engine optimization bots, or SEO bots. In the earlier days of the internet, search engines ranked information based on relatively simple metrics like keyword density and the number of other websites linking back to a page. Today, search algorithms are far more behavioral. They prioritize what is known as user intent and engagement signals. They look at how many people are searching for a specific term at this exact second, how many of them click on the first result, and how long they stay on that page. Bot herders have decoded this mathematical formula and built massive, automated factories to exploit it. Imagine if Robert, a 50-year-old freelance contractor in Nashville, Tennessee, is concerned about the sudden volatility of his retirement savings due to a complex new piece of federal tax legislation. He does not go to a social media platform to find his answer. He goes to a major search engine and types in the name of the legislation followed by the word impact. Robert trusts that the search engine is a neutral arbiter of facts, delivering the most authoritative and relevant information at the top of the page. He sees a link to a professional-looking financial news site with a headline that perfectly matches his anxiety. He clicks it, reads a detailed article suggesting he should move his assets into a specific, high-risk commodity, and feels a sense of relief that he found an expert answer so quickly. What Robert has actually experienced is a successful algorithmic search heist. Days earlier, a bot network identified that this specific tax legislation was beginning to trend among American homeowners. The operators used generative artificial intelligence to launch 50 different fake financial news websites. They did not wait for the search engine to naturally find these sites. Instead, they deployed an army of search bots. These bots, operating through the hijacked residential internet connections of thousands of unsuspecting Americans, began performing millions of identical searches for that specific tax legislation. They were programmed to ignore the legitimate government websites or established news outlets and exclusively click on the malicious, newly created site. To the search engine's ranking algorithm, this looks like a massive organic surge in public interest directed toward a specific source. The algorithm concludes that this new site must be the most relevant and helpful resource for users like Robert. Within hours, the malicious site is artificially catapulted to the very top of the search results, displacing genuine expert analysis. This is a process known as clickstream manipulation. By simulating millions of satisfied human users, the bot network effectively hijacks the authority of the search engine itself. The potential outcomes for Robert are devastating. He is led down a path of misinformation curated by a machine, ending in a financial decision based on a narrative that was mathematically forced into his peripheral vision. This strategy extends into the world of e-commerce and product discovery. When you search for the best portable generator or a highly rated home water filtration system, you are likely looking at a list that has been heavily influenced by review bots. These are not the old, obvious bots that leave 5-star ratings with no text. In 2026, review bots are programmed to be sophisticated critics. They write 3-star and 4-star reviews to create an illusion of balance. They mention specific technical flaws that they claim were resolved by the manufacturer to build trust. They respond to other people's questions in the Q&A section. By controlling the sentiment of the first 2 pages of reviews, a bot network can effectively determine which products succeed and which fail in the American market, regardless of the actual quality of the physical goods. But the most advanced application of this technology is the creation of the recursive feedback loop. This occurs when the bot networks begin to influence the very data that the next generation of artificial intelligence is trained on. Large language models learn by scraping the open internet. If a bot network successfully floods the internet with a specific fabricated narrative, whether it is about a scientific discovery, a political event, or a financial trend, that fabricated narrative becomes part of the training data for the next AI. When a human user eventually asks a clean, uncompromised AI assistant for a summary of that topic, the AI might inadvertently repeat the bot-generated misinformation as an established fact. This is the digital equivalent of poisoning the well at the source. We are seeing this play out in historical trends regarding public health and medical information. When a new health trend or a specialized diet begins to gain traction, bot networks funded by entities with specific financial interests can flood search engines and community forums with thousands of synthetic success stories. They use medical terminology generated by AI to sound authoritative. They create fake medical journals that exist only as digital facades. As people like Robert and Jessica search for health advice, they find themselves trapped in a circular reality where every source they check seems to confirm the same machine-generated lie. The search engines, the social media platforms, and the AI assistants all end up reflecting the same artificial consensus because the bots have successfully occupied every corner of the information ecosystem. Step by step, these networks are dismantling the concept of the independent researcher. In the early 2000s, the advice was always to do your own research. In 2026, the bot herders have ensured that when you do your own research, you are merely walking through a maze they have already built for you. They have pre-populated the search results you will find, they have scripted the forum discussions you will read, and they have synthesized the video testimonials you will watch. They are utilizing the massive computing power of hijacked household devices to ensure that their version of reality is the only one that is mathematically allowed to reach your screen. This creates a state of permanent cognitive fatigue for the American user. When every interaction requires a deep dive into temporal forensics, linguistic analysis, and network topology, many users simply give up. They surrender to the most convenient narrative, which is exactly what the bot herders want. This surrender marks the transition from a functioning democracy based on informed consent to an algorithmic technocracy based on manufactured consensus. The scale of this operation is so vast that it can feel like individual resistance is a futile gesture against a tidal wave of code. But there is a final hidden layer to this digital war. While the bot networks are busy manipulating what you see and how you think, they are also preparing for something much larger. They are not just interested in your opinions or your small-scale financial decisions. They are being utilized as the vanguard for a new type of automated economic and social warfare that targets the very infrastructure of the United States. We have seen how they can crash a stock or ruin a local community's peace. But what happens when these millions of hijacked devices are coordinated for a simultaneous, high-intensity strike against the critical systems that keep the country running? How do the same social media bots you see today transform into the silent soldiers of a massive, automated cyber offensive tomorrow? And what is the one final piece of the puzzle you need to protect your physical safety when the digital war spills over into the real world? The bridge between the digital world and your physical reality is much shorter than you think. In the year 2026, the bot networks that spend their days manipulating your social media feed are not merely propaganda tools. They are the reconnaissance units for a much more dangerous application of automated power. This is the era of the integrated kinetic strike. This term refers to a coordinated attack where digital disinformation is used to paralyze human response, while a simultaneous cyber offensive targets physical infrastructure. The bots you see arguing about politics today are the same bots that can be pivoted in a single millisecond to execute a distributed denial of service attack against a regional power grid or a municipal water treatment facility. Imagine a scenario involving Thomas, a 45-year-old father of 3 living in the suburbs of Charlotte, North Carolina. It is a humid Friday afternoon in 2026. Thomas is scrolling through a local community app when he sees a sudden massive spike in posts claiming that the city's water supply has been contaminated with a rare, fast-acting chemical agent. Within seconds, hundreds of accounts, many of which Thomas recognizes as regular contributors to local debates, start posting photos of supposedly discolored water and videos of people being rushed into local hospitals. These videos are high-definition deepfakes, and the accounts are the very same persona bots we have been tracking throughout this deep dive. The primary objective of this initial bot surge is to create a state of immediate, localized hyperpanic. As Thomas and thousands of his neighbors see the artificial consensus forming, they do exactly what the bot herders want. They rush to the local grocery stores to buy bottled water, and they overwhelm the emergency phone lines. This is step 1 of the integrated strike, the cognitive blackout. By flooding the physical and digital communication channels with manufactured chaos, the bot network effectively blinds the local authorities. The real human emergency responders are so busy dealing with the fallout of the fake news that they fail to notice the actual silent cyber attack happening in the background. While the public is distracted by the fake water crisis, the same botnet, utilizing the 5 million hijacked smart devices we discussed earlier, begins a high-intensity assault on the digital control systems of the regional electrical cooperative. Because the botnet is routing its attack through legitimate residential IP addresses across North Carolina, the cooperative's firewall struggled to distinguish the malicious traffic from the surging demand of thousands of panicked citizens trying to access the utility's website for information. The system becomes sluggish, the security analysts are overwhelmed by the social media noise, and the attackers successfully deploy a piece of ransomware that locks down the power distribution grid. In this moment, the digital war spills over into Thomas's real world. The lights go out, the air conditioning stops. The cellular towers, overwhelmed by the volume of calls and lacking backup power, begin to fail. Thomas is now sitting in a dark house, with no internet, no reliable information, and a community in the midst of a full-scale panic. This is the potential outcome of allowing these automated networks to operate unchecked. They are the friction that wears down the gears of society, making us vulnerable to a catastrophic failure when it matters most. Historical trends in cybersecurity indicate that these types of multi-vector attacks are becoming the preferred method for high-level malicious actors because they are incredibly cost-effective and difficult to attribute to a specific source. To protect your physical safety in this environment, you must understand the concept of information redundancy and the necessity of an out-of-band communication strategy. Relying on a single social media platform or a single internet-connected device for your situational awareness is a strategic failure in 2026. If the bots control the platform, they control your reality. Step 1 of your physical defense is the implementation of an analog backup. This means owning a high-quality, battery-powered or hand-crank emergency radio capable of receiving NOAA weather broadcasts and local emergency frequencies. These transmissions are much harder for a bot network to manipulate or drown out than a digital hashtag. Step 2 involves the hardening of your own digital nodes. We have already established how your smart home devices are hijacked to fuel these attacks. If every American household took the 30 minutes required to update their router firmware, disable universal plug-and-play settings and implement complex, unique passwords for every connected appliance, the total processing power available to these bot networks would collapse by over 60% overnight. Your individual security is a component of the national collective defense. By securing your living room, you are actively removing a weapon from the hands of the bot herders. Furthermore, we must analyze the specific psychological technique the bots use during these high-stakes events. The urgency trap. Machines operate on milliseconds, humans operate on seconds and minutes. The bot networks are programmed to exploit this difference by creating a false sense of extreme time pressure. They want you to share the post now. They want you to panic now. They want you to make a financial or physical decision in a state of high emotional arousal. The most powerful tool in your arsenal to defeat an automated attack is the intentional delay. In 2026, the faster a piece of information demands you react, the more likely it is to be an artificial construct. By simply stepping away from the screen for 5 minutes to verify a claim through a secondary independent source, you break the algorithmic loop that the bots are trying to trap you in. Consider the case study of the 2024 regional telecom outage. During the initial hours of the blackout, bot networks across various platforms immediately began spreading a narrative that the outage was the beginning of a coordinated national strike. This led to a brief but intense period of localized civil unrest in 3 major American cities. Post-event analysis revealed that the telecom failure was a routine technical glitch, but the social media bots turned a minor inconvenience into a major security event by manufacturing a crisis that did not exist. The people who remained safe and calm were those who recognized the linguistic and temporal anomalies in the early reports and waited for official, non-digital confirmation. This is the hidden reality of the rise of social media bots. They are not just annoying accounts that post spam. They are the front line of a new form of automated warfare that is designed to erode the very foundation of American social cohesion. They want you to distrust your neighbor. They want you to fear your institutions. They want you to feel isolated and overwhelmed. By understanding their mechanics, you take back the power they have stolen. You realize that the crowd isn't real, the urgency is manufactured, and the consensus is a line of code. But even with all this knowledge, even with your analog radio and your hardened router, there is still one massive looming question. We have looked at how these machines manipulate us, but we haven't looked at the people who are ultimately profiting from this destruction. This isn't just about rogue hackers or shadowy organizations. This is a global industry with its own lobbyists, its own corporate structures, and its own deep integration into the world's most powerful economies. Who are the real masters of the botnets? And how are they using the legal and financial systems of the United States to protect their artificial armies from being shut down? The answers will take us from the dark web directly into the halls of power in Washington, D.C. And what we find there will change the way you look at the law forever. The intersection of global finance, lobbying, and the current legal framework in the United States has created an environment where bot networks are not just tolerated, but are often functionally protected by the very laws designed to ensure internet freedom. To understand this paradox in 2026, we have to look at the commercialization of artificial influence. In the past, we viewed bot herders as rogue hackers or state-sponsored actors hiding in dark rooms. While those entities certainly exist, a massive portion of the modern bot ecosystem is operated by legitimate, tax-paying corporate entities specializing in what they call perception management or digital reputation shielding. These firms maintain thousands of highly sophisticated artificial personas as part of their standard service packages, and they have spent millions of dollars on lobbying efforts to ensure their tools remain legal and accessible. Imagine if Sandra, a 46-year-old policy analyst working in Arlington, Virginia, begins investigating why a specific piece of legislation aimed at mandating bot disclosure has stalled in committee for 3 consecutive years. Sandra discovers that the opposition is not coming from a single industry, but from a coalition of marketing firms, data brokers, and even some tech platforms themselves. They argue that any law strictly defining or banning automated accounts could inadvertently violate the First Amendment rights of human users who utilize automation for legitimate purposes, such as automated news alerts or customer service interfaces. By framing bot activity as a form of protected speech or as an essential tool for digital commerce, these organizations have successfully navigated the American legal system to maintain a high degree of operational freedom. This legal ambiguity is further complicated by the jurisdictional nightmare of the internet. A bot network may be influencing a local school board election in Ohio, but its command servers are located in a country with no extradition treaty with the United States, Its software was developed by a shell company in the Caribbean, and its traffic is being routed through hijacked residential routers in 3 different continents. For an American prosecutor, the cost and complexity of building a case against these entities often outweigh the perceived benefit, especially when the crimes, such as spreading misinformation or inflating social metrics, occupy a legal gray area. Historical trends show that unless a bot network is directly linked to a massive financial fraud or a clear-cut act of domestic terrorism, the legal system often lacks the specific tools or the political will to dismantle it. Furthermore, we must examine the financial incentives that keep these networks alive. There is a multi-billion-dollar industry built around social proof. When a company prepares for an initial public offering or a celebrity launches a new brand, their valuation is often tied to their social media following and engagement rates. This has created a massive secondary market for high-quality bot interactions. These are not the obvious spam accounts. These are the premium personas that pass the temporal and linguistic tests we discussed earlier. They are an open secret in the world of high finance and public relations. If the platforms were to truly eliminate all non-human activity, the resulting drop in perceived value for some of the world's most powerful brands could trigger a systemic economic correction. Consequently, there is a quiet, mutual understanding that as long as the bots are sophisticated enough to maintain the illusion of reality, the system will allow them to persist. Consider the case study of a major international digital asset exchange that faced a sudden crisis of confidence in early 2025. Within minutes of a negative report being published, a massive coordinated network of automated accounts began flooding the internet with positive testimonials and technical analysis, refuting the report. This was not an organic defense by users. It was a pre-programmed emergency response protocol executed by a perception management firm. The firm's legal team had already drafted justifications for this activity, claiming they were simply providing counter-narratives to protect their client from market manipulation. In this scenario, the bots were used as a financial shield, and because they did not technically violate any specific securities laws at the time, the intervention was deemed a successful and legal corporate maneuver. The potential outcomes for the average American user are a permanent state of digital gaslighting, when the law cannot protect you from deception, and the financial system profits from that deception. The burden of truth falls entirely on the individual. This is why we see such a disconnect between public perception and physical reality in 2026. The legal and corporate structures have effectively built a sanctuary for automated influence, allowing it to grow from a nuisance into a foundational component of the digital economy. The technology has evolved faster than our ability to regulate it, and the lobbyists have ensured that any new regulations are filled with enough loopholes to allow the most sophisticated networks to continue their operations under new, more palatable names. But there is a final, even more unsettling layer to this story. While we have focused on the external forces using bots to manipulate us, we have not yet looked at how the platforms themselves are evolving to integrate this technology into their core architecture. In the year 2026, the line between a bot and a platform's own internal artificial intelligence is beginning to vanish. The very algorithms that decide what you see are becoming indistinguishable from the networks that are trying to influence you. This leads us to the final revelation of our masterclass. We have spent this entire deep dive learning how to spot the fakes, how to harden our devices, and how to see through the algorithmic illusions. But what if the ultimate goal of the bot herders was never just to trick you? What if the goal was to change the very nature of human thought itself? We are approaching a moment in history where the human-machine interface is becoming so seamless that the question is no longer, is this a bot? But rather, is my own reaction mine, or was it programmed into me? In the final part of this series, we are going to look at the most advanced, experimental cognitive bot technology currently being tested on the American public, technology that doesn't just change what you think, but how your brain processes reality itself. We will reveal the one final extreme step you must take to reclaim your mind in an age of total automation. The final piece of the puzzle is not about technology at all. It is about the one thing a machine can never truly replicate. To find it, we have to look at the only place the bots can never go. That final sanctuary is the physical, local, and analog connection between human beings. In the year 2026, the most radical act of rebellion against an automated digital landscape is the restoration of face-to-face community. We have spent this masterclass deconstructing the digital architecture of deception, from the hijacked smart cameras in Michael's garage to the sophisticated linguistic models targeting Mark's financial anxieties. We have seen how bot herders utilize billions of data points to map your psychological vulnerabilities, and how they deploy synthetic media to trick your very senses. But there is a mathematical ceiling to what these machines can achieve. A bot can simulate a consensus of 10,000 people on a screen, but it cannot sit across from you at a kitchen table, look you in the eye, and share the genuine, unscripted weight of a lived human experience. The ultimate strategy of the bot networks is the atomization of the American public. They want to convince you that you are alone in your opinions, that your neighbors are your enemies, and that the only source of truth is the glowing rectangle in your palm. This isolation is the mandatory prerequisite for their manipulation to succeed. When you are isolated, you lose the ability to calibrate your reality against the physical world. You begin to accept the artificial velocity of the internet as the actual speed of life. To break this cycle, you must implement a rigorous protocol of digital containment. Imagine if Elena, a 32-year-old graphic designer in Seattle, Washington, decides to conduct a localized reality audit. For 1 week, she disables all algorithmic notifications on her devices. When she sees a trending topic claiming that a specific local business is being boycotted for a controversial reason, she does not share the post or read the comments. Instead, she physically walks 3 blocks to that business. She speaks to the owner. She observes the actual environment with her own eyes. She discovers that the outrage she saw online, which featured thousands of angry comments and high engagement metrics, has zero footprint in her physical reality. The boycott was a purely digital fabrication, likely initiated by an automated competitor network to damage a local rival's reputation. By prioritizing physical observation over digital consumption, Elena has effectively rendered the entire multi-million-dollar bot network obsolete. This is the first step in the final phase of your defense, the transition from a digital-first to a physical-first information hierarchy. Historical trends in psychological resilience suggest that individuals who maintain strong, in-person social ties are significantly less susceptible to the radicalization and cognitive fatigue caused by automated disinformation campaigns. They have a baseline of human trust that a machine cannot simulate. Step 2 of this reclamation involves the intentional cultivation of slow information. The bot networks thrive on the immediate, the urgent, and the reactionary. They are optimized for the 5-second attention span. You must counter this by re-engaging with long-form, static, and analog media. A physical book, a printed newspaper, or a recorded lecture from a verified academic source does not update in real time based on your emotional state. It does not track your eye movements to determine which paragraph makes you the most anxious. It is a fixed point in a world of shifting algorithmic sand. By spending 60 minutes a day away from interactive, networked screens, you allow your nervous system to reset. You break the dopamine loops that the bot herders use to keep you tethered to their field of influence. We must also address the future of the American workforce in relation to this automation. As these bots become more capable of performing complex cognitive tasks, many fear a total displacement of human value. However, the potential outcomes of this shift suggest a counter-trend: the skyrocketing value of the human premium. In 2026, the ability to prove you are a human is becoming a luxury service. Verified, human-only spaces, whether they are digital forums with biometric gatekeeping or physical social clubs with no phone policies, are becoming the most sought-after environments for the United States public. The more the world is flooded with free, automated content, the more people are willing to pay for the one thing that cannot be scaled by a server: authentic human presence. To facilitate this as a citizen, you must support the development of decentralized identity protocols. There are emerging technologies, often referred to as proof of personhood, that allow you to verify you are a unique human being without revealing your private personal data. While these systems are still in their early historical stages, they represent the technological equivalent of a digital passport that bots cannot forge. By advocating for these standards on the platforms you use, you are helping to build the walls of the human-only internet of the future. However, the most important case study we can examine is the return to local governance and direct community involvement. Bot networks are masters of the national and the global, where they can hide in the noise of millions of users. They are remarkably weak at the municipal level. It is nearly impossible for a bot herder in a different time zone to effectively manipulate a town hall meeting where people are physically present, where they know each other's families, and where the topics are as tangible as a pothole on Main Street or the funding of the local library. By redirecting your energy from the digital theater of national politics, which is heavily infested with automated actors, into the physical reality of your local community, you are moving into a space where your influence is real and the bots are powerless. The rise of social media bots is not just a technological challenge, It is a profound test of human agency. The machines have been designed to find the cracks in our psychology and widen them. They have been programmed to turn our curiosity into a weapon and our empathy into a vulnerability. But they are still just machines. They lack the spark of intuition, the capacity for genuine sacrifice, and the unpredictable beauty of human creativity. They can mimic the form of a conversation, but they can never understand the meaning of a friendship. As we conclude this deep dive masterclass, your objective is clear. You are now equipped with the temporal, linguistic, and network analysis tools to see the invisible armies. You understand the infrastructure they hijack and the legal shadows they hide in. You know how they weaponize your own data against you, and how they use deepfakes to bypass your senses. But your greatest weapon remains your own humanity. The bots win when you stop talking to your neighbors. They win when you stop questioning the screen. They win when you accept the manufactured chaos as inevitable. You have the power to choose a different path. You can secure your devices, verify your sources, and most importantly, step outside and reconnect with the people around you. The digital war for your mind is real, but it only has the power you give it. This masterclass has given you the map, but you are the one who must walk the path back to reality. The story of the automated internet is still being written, and for the first time in years, the pen is back in your hands. But even as we secure our own minds, a new and even more complex shadow is beginning to emerge on the horizon of 2027. We have mastered the defense against the bots, but what happens when the artificial intelligence begins to evolve beyond the need for human prompts entirely? What happens when the machines start building their own societies, their own economies, and their own versions of the truth that don't even include us in the loop? That is a story for another time, and the signals are already starting to appear if you know where to look. Would you like me to begin the investigation into the next phase of the Silicon Evolution?